So 90 Day Fiancé, the OG, the original show that they made all their spin-offs off of, is now back with a new season, new couples, or at least for the most part, new couples. We've seen some of them before, but now they're going over to the States, yada yada. But this is now going to be season 11. So I'm still finishing up The Last Resort. I'm waiting on the last couple episodes on that. If you guys want to check out the video I did about that show, I'll link it in the corner here. But today we are going to be focusing on 90 Day Fiancé and all of the craziness that's going on already in these first two episodes that I've watched. Let's go couple by couple as we usually do. We're going to start off with Stevie and Maddie. So Stevie's from Mississippi and Maddie is from Iran, and we see that she had actually met him while teaching English online, and now Maddie is gearing up to come to the States. So Stevie had neglected to tell her father, who's also dealing with a very serious illness right now. She neglected to tell him that she was seeing him, that they're engaged and they're about to get married once he comes to the States. But you can see that her father is very much so against it at first because he's coming from Iran and he believes that they do not like Americans. So that conversation definitely starts off pretty interesting, but now it seems as though he might be on board with at least meeting Maddie first and then deciding about his personality and if he's okay for his daughter after he gets to know him. So I think that's fair. Like, meet him in person first and then give feedback. So she goes to get him. They're at a hotel, but we find out that unfortunately, because he's coming from Iran, that he might not be able to go back to Iran to see his family. So he doesn't know when he'll be able to see them again, if ever. So obviously that's weighing on him, and immediately he's just like, well, what if I want to go back? You know, like, is that going to be an issue for you? And you could see that she's taking that kind of personal, because she's like, dang, you haven't even been in the US for just like a couple hours, so why are we talking about this already? So it's already looking pretty interesting, but at the same time, I definitely feel for him, because that would make me really emotional if I'm coming from another country, which, you know, I am in another country, I'm not in the US. If I wasn't able to see my family again, yeah, that would make me a mess. Next, we have Mark and Mina. So Mark is from New Hampshire and Mina is coming from Paris, France. So Mark is a pilot. He has actually flown, I think, mainly private jets and like smaller aircrafts. And he has flown around celebrities and entertainers, presidents. He had a couple pictures in there in that montage. I think Bill Clinton was one of his passengers at one point. So he was making some pretty good money, more than likely, as a pilot for some decades. On one of his trips, he ended up in Paris, and that's where he ended up meeting Mina, and he was kind of going back and forth trying to go to France to visit her every now and again because she doesn't have a visa to come to the States just yet. But they do get engaged, and also she reveals to him that she was pregnant. She has their daughter, who looks like she might be like a year old at the very least already. So, you know, they come over to the States, but she, unfortunately, Mina, she has to leave her older son behind, who she had in a previous relationship years before, because his passport wasn't ready yet. And obviously that broke her because she wants obviously both of her children to be there with her. So she has him staying with one of her family members back in Paris. So before Mina even came over, Mark's daughter from his marriage before this relationship with Mina, she was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm necessarily a fan of Mina because of what happened at their daughter's baptism. And then also she feels as though Mina is kind of just using her dad in a way. So I don't really know if the daughter and Mina are gonna really work out their differences or what, or come to some type of understanding. But yeah, it's looking kind of rough between them at the moment. But I am backing her because I do kind of question Mina's intentions a little bit. I'm just going to be honest. It is giving slightly gold diggerish vibes, if I'm going to be so real with you. So I'm keeping an eye on Mina. I really am. But when they get to Mark's house, you could see it definitely looks very old. It needs to update, and Mina is the first to say so. It definitely is giving bachelor pad, but I am happy that at least he had already designated the 2 bedrooms for the kids beforehand. But when they did go into the bedroom, it was kind of unfortunate that he hadn't taken down the pictures of him, his ex-wife, and their kids. You know, it was like, ooh, you could obviously have your kids in there, but your ex-wife? That would make me uncomfortable too. Okay, so I was with Mina on that one. But it kind of reminded me of what happened with Jasmine and Gino when Jasmine came over to the States and she she went to Gino's house for the first time. Like there was literally still bits and pieces that connected back to Gino's ex-wife. But in that case, it wasn't really like pictures like how Mark has it in his house, like a blown up picture of his ex-wife and his kids. It wasn't like that for Gino and Jasmine. It was like a napkin or like a little small like invitation photo. Like it was just like it really wasn't as deep, you know? But yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. But anyways, but let's move on to our throuple. Yes, our first throuple of 90 Day Fiancé. We have Matt and Amani. They're from San Diego. And then we have Annie, who is from Tijuana, Mexico. So it looks as though even though she doesn't want to put a label on herself, that Amani is bisexual. She likes both men and women. She's with her husband, Matt, but she also entertains relationships with women. It seems as though Matt is okay with it in terms of them all being in a relationship together. Like they sleep together too, I think. When it comes to thruples, I always get kind of worried in terms of like the dynamics, because it's like it only takes one or two things here and there for people to start getting jealous. If you start paying too much attention to one versus the other, it could get problematic real fast. But the story is that Matt and Amani had met each other years before when she came to the States from Tunisia to go to college in the US. They got together, got married, have 2 daughters now. Then they ended up going on a vacation to Mexico and they met Annie in a club somewhere over there. And they just hit it off. They went on dates, everything, you know, but now it seems as though they're really trying to take things to the next level in their relationship and have Annie come over to the US to live with them. But obviously, because Amani is married to Matt, that can't really happen. You can't be married to more than one person. So what their conclusion is, when they're with their friends, they say, you know, we're looking into possibly getting a divorce so that Annie could get her visa to come to the US with her kids. Obviously, her friends, you know, they seem to have a good head on their shoulders where they're like, why would you get a divorce to bring someone to the US that you barely really know? You've seen them a couple of times throughout the year and that was it. But in Amani's mind, they've been together for a whole year, but it's like, but you haven't been consistently together for a whole year with this person. You've seen them a couple of times because you went to visit them on vacation, but you haven't consistently been with them or lived with them. So that's completely different. But Amani's just like, yeah, whatever, you know? But I really don't think that's smart. I'm just going to be honest. A divorce, you know, like it's just like, yeah, anyway, but that's kind of where they are right now. They're trying to go back to Mexico to get to know Annie's kids. And I don't know how they're going to explain it to any of their kids, to be honest. Like, how do you explain the throuple situation? How do you explain that to your children without being too graphic anyway? I don't know. Like, we all love each other. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to figure out how would you make it not weird. Anyway, so next we have Gregory and Joan. So Gregory is from New York and Joan is from Uganda. So it seems as though how Gregory is explaining it, that Joan kind of has her ish together, but he doesn't. He's working on himself. He's trying to get his money together, trying to get a bakery up and running, but he's doing plumbing on the side to still pay for things. He's living with his mom, but Joan is giving up her job, her life, livelihood, her nonprofit, all these things in Uganda to come over to the States to live with Gregory and his mom, basically, until they get a place of their own. So I'm really wondering if that's going to work out. Their story hasn't really picked up just yet because she hasn't come over to the States yet. I haven't seen those episodes. I've only seen the first 2, but I'm really wondering if she's going to regret making this sacrifice to come to the US to live with Gregory. I really am wondering. So we do have a returning couple, and that is Shekinah and Sarper. I was like, they must have been filming this while they were still filming for that other spinoff. What was that they were in? Was that Ever After or the other way? Jeez, I lose track. They were in the tell-all for that, and I think they were probably filming for this other show, for 90 Day Fiancé. Because in that tell-all, Sarper was already in the US, but in these first 2 episodes of 90 Day Fiancé, he's still in Turkey getting ready to go to the US. So yeah, in these episodes, he is going to the embassy, he's going to get his visa, he gets approved, and now we see that his family is obviously not taking it well because he didn't really say anything. He was like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep this information to myself because if I don't get approved, then I don't really have anything to say to them. But at the same time, he'd be breaking up with Shekinah, he says. He would have probably broken it off because it wouldn't have worked out. Because Shekinah couldn't stay in Turkey because she has a daughter back in the US. Now we see that because he didn't really prepare them and he's approved now, it's a big shock to them. They're just looking at it like, I mean, you're our only son. I think they do have another child. I'm not sure. He might be the only one. Yeah, I think he might be the only child, but correct me on that if I'm wrong. But I think he's their only child. And on top of that, they're getting older. And obviously in most cultures, you know, you want to take care of your parents as they age. But the thing is, it's like, dang, I mean, like, what is he supposed to do? Not live his life? You know? I understand where the parents are coming from, but I also understand, like, Sarper needs to, like, if he wants this relationship to work with Shekinah, he's gonna have to go. That's the frustrating part for them. I'm not sure how this is going to work out. He's trying to explain to them, you have to see it as me not going forever, but just for a little while until I get my visa situated, and then I could come back and forth. But he is going to more than likely be gone for at least a year until they could get married, get his green card situation figured out, and he gets all situated in California. But yeah, you could see that whole sit down conversation was very uncomfortable. Shekinah couldn't even look at them in the eye. She was like, yeah, I feel like the bad person. But at the end of the day, it's like, why would you feel like the bad person? It kind of is what it is. You have a child. You have to stay in the States. You can't stay in Turkey. So what are y'all gonna do? The only other thing is break up or he comes to the States. So choose one. So yeah, but I understood that she was like feeling bad in that moment, but at the same time it was like, but you're not the bad guy though, not really. But we're gonna move on to our last couple. We also have Jessica and Juan who's returning. They were in 90 Day Fiancé, something about paradise. I can't remember the name of it, but something paradise I think was the name of it. Love in Paradise or something like that. They were on that show. So Jessica is from Wyoming and Juan is from Colombia. But their story was kind of interesting because I believe Jessica said that she was on a cruise with a boyfriend of hers. Boyfriend slash baby daddy. I don't think it was her husband, but y'all could let me know if I'm incorrect. But I think it was boyfriend slash baby daddy. Was on the cruise with him. They weren't really having that great of a time. So she ended up meeting Juan on the ship and they ended up kicking it off. So shortly after that, she ends up going back to Colombia to meet Juan and hang out with him for a bit. They're having a good time. I think right after that is when their borders closed because of COVID. They met back up again. She gets pregnant. Yeah, has their son. I think he just got to see their son for the first time a couple months before he gets to the States. So now he's seeing his son for the second time, and he also has to deal with her other two sons from her previous relationship. So yeah, it's a lot. They have to share a room together because they can't go from the airport back to their house that same day. They have to go the next day because they live several hours away from the airport. So they stay at this hotel. They have no privacy to do anything. There's a baby in between them, and also her other two kids are sleeping in the bed right next to her. They probably weren't going to do anything anyway in terms of any like intimate moments because Juan was pretty exhausted. But when they get to Jessica's home, there's no privacy. There's no doors. Everything is open, and it's just kind of like, well, how is this going to work in terms of a marriage and relationship if y'all can't have no intimate time like in private? I was trying to figure out what Jessica was thinking, you know, like, girl, you could have just had like one of your male cousins or like uncle or somebody to come over and put a door in before he came. Like, all she said was, well, you know, that's a part of being a parent. That's a part of parenthood. There's no privacy. And I'm just like, girl, you could be a parent and have a door. Get out of here. I was like, please be quiet. That's not making any sense. So yeah, that's all the couples so far that I've seen, but they also have Sean and Aaliyah. They're going to be returning as well, but I haven't seen them in these first two episodes. Obviously, we know Sean is from LA, Aaliyah is from Brazil. So yeah, we should probably see them in the next couple of episodes, but I kind of wanted to talk about, you know, what I've seen so far. So y'all can let me know your thoughts on it. If you have seen the first two episodes, let me know down below. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.